Hey, 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 happy Tuesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, GamingGang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. Welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. This is live show number 1163. If you're not overly familiar with this show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And sometimes I will pontificate about the state of our hobby. Maybe I'll talk about a topic. Maybe I discuss designing a fantasy role-playing game. And maybe I'll take a first look at something. Well, it's the latter we're doing tonight. The latter, not ladder. We're doing tonight because I am going to jump on in and take a first look at Urban Shadows 2nd edition from Magpie Games. That's right, we're going to dive on in and take a peek at this urban horror role-playing game in just a bit. Do want to mention, if you are tuning in for the first look, we always tackle the tabletop gaming news first. Probably going to be about 35 minutes before we get on into that first look and page through. Just letting you know, so if you are hanging out live, kick back, relax, enjoy yourself. If you are watching after the fact, maybe even on Memorex, there will be timestamps in the timeline of the video as well as the show notes. So if you don't want to check out the latest in tabletop gaming news, that's okay. You'll be able to jump right ahead and get right on into that first look. Yes. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 10 whole minutes, practically a lifetime, before you can take part in chat. Yet another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you happen to check both those boxes and you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, fire away. I will do my very best to respond. First out the gate tonight, we have got our good friend of the show, the Madman, is with us. Also happens to be one of our chat moderators. Sean O'Donnell is here, as is LJ Costanzo. I almost said JL. And I'm not dyslexic. I don't know why that was weird. Shanbot V42, Kathy Evans, Gleamwood RX, Diesel Shot is with us. Interestingly enough, I just got a package from Diesel Shot this afternoon. Well. I do not have it downstairs. I mean, I don't have it here in the Duct Tape Studios. The lower level of the Duct Tape Studios. Yeah, that's the ticket. Yes. Anyway, 245 Trioxin is also here in the house. And I'll take a guess. Maybe the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is also joining us, lurking in the shadows with her glittery banhammer, because yes, she is another of our chat moderators. Very nice. Diesel Shot said, "You did? I hope it arrived in mint condition." It was minty fresh condition. In fact, it was kind of funny how it was wrapped pretty well. Although the reality is, if the post office wants to destroy something, they're going to destroy it. It doesn't really matter how you package it, but still, yes, everything is in A-OK shape. Sarah D is with us saying howdy to the gang. Very nice. Very nice. 245 Trioxin points out the new Shadow Dark Kickstarter just passed $1 million in its first day. Yes, I will have news about that tomorrow. What I like to do usually with Kickstarters is see how they do first few days. But of course, yes, I knew that was going to knock it out of the park. So yes, it is rocking and rolling already. I haven't really dug too deeply into it, so we shall see. Although, funny enough, I do have a Shadow Dark related news piece a bit later. So stay tuned for that. So speaking of the news, let's jump on in because I've got quite a bit. And we're going to kick off with what is an absolutely fabulous money-saving deal from Goodman Games and Humble Bundle. I know you liked that voice, didn't you? Fabulous! They've gotten together for a massive money-saving offer, and I've got the lowdown on the Mega Dungeon Mega Bundle. Dungeons & Dragons, Dungeon Crawl Classics, and an amazing Mega Bundle. Mages and elves rejoice. Gather up your party for endless adventure with this Mega Bundle of tabletop role-playing games by Goodman Games. This tabletop role-playing game Explorer's Kit contains rule books, source books, and campaign resources for Dungeons & Dragons and Dungeon Crawl Classics. Play hot campaigns like Dark Tower, The Chained Coffin, and also help support World Central Kitchen with your purchase. Embark on new quests with your friends and make your ordinary night extraordinary. There are 36 Dungeon Crawl Classics entries, which include Dark Tower, which you're seeing the image of the Chosen Sons of Set book from the 3-volume set. Also, The Music of the Spheres, which is Dungeon Crawl Classics Adventure number 100 by Harley Stroh, also was a boxed set. Peril on the Purple Planet, which is not the new edition, but still all that Purple Planet action. And you also get, if you want to go all in, you can score a physical copy of Sailors on the Starless Sea. I always want to say Sailors on the Seas of Fate. Yeah, I know. I'm a Michael Moorcock fan. What can I tell you? You can jump aboard for $1. That's right, for $1. Single, solitary, $1. 4 quarters. Rub them all together, and you can actually get some PDFs. But what you're probably more interested in is going all in for a minimum donation of $40, which will score you 2 physical releases, although you got to pay for shipping. One of those is the new, I think it's the remastered Sailors on the Starless Sea. 81 digital items, because there's a lot of early Dungeon Crawl Classics, which was for 3.5, if I remember correctly, for D&D 3.5. There are like 2 or 3 issues of a magazine that Goodman Games tried to do. I think it was called Level Up, something along those lines. Well, regardless, 2 physical releases, 81 digital items, and a 20% off coupon from Goodman Games for $40. When I say it is fabulous, I'm not joking. Here's why. So you may recall one of our lovely fans of the show actually had provided the funds to pick up the slipcase set for Dark Tower, which, stay tuned, I will have my review of that at the end of this week into next week. So if you wanted to pick this up in PDF, it's $61 or $62 over at DriveThruRPG. $62 for the 3-volume set which is only a tiny portion of this offer. This just stuns me, blows me away. One thing I did not notice is the Dungeon Crawl Classics rulebook. That I did not see, which it's not a terrible thing. Although it's funny because it says rule books, but I didn't see any rule books. So, well, then again, I mean, it's not like I stared at each and every entry in this, but wow, this is just a smashing deal. Once again, when people talk about how they're getting priced out of the hobby, this is the sort of stuff that I say you got to jump on. Gots to jump on. Even if there were 10 PDFs out of all of this, and there's virtual tabletop tokens and things like that that are part of this deal too. If you were to use 10 PDFs, you're still coming out ahead. And just think of all the gaming that you will have. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So we got a few more people who popped on into chat. Walona's Cave is with us. Stephen from Roll for Combat popped on in. Said they wrote because they wanted to sponsor the channel and asking if I was going to GaryCon. Sadly enough, I am not going to GaryCon. I will, maybe I'll mention a little bit when we finish up the news here. But I wish I was, but I am not. So there is that. Anyway, so once again, fantastic offer, fantastic deal. I mean, you can get all of that Dungeon Crawl Classics content. And we're talking 36 DCC entries, not the D&D DCC, because that's what it was. Gleeman RX says, yes, the core rulebook is included in this bundle. Thank you. Because I thought that was so weird that I didn't see it. I was like, seriously? It's like, got all these adventures in that you don't have the core book? Okay, so right there, it's a must-have. If you got any interest whatsoever, ever, in Dungeon Crawl Classics, or maybe you've got the rule book, you don't have many adventures for it. I know I'm harping on this deal a lot. Well, I'm not really harping. I'm triumphing it. But still, pretty sweet. Moving right along, Pickpocket Press is currently in the midst of a very successful crowdfunding project to fund the adventure anthology for Shadow Dark. I told you I had a Shadow Dark related news piece. Here's the scoop. The book consists of 22 short, sharp, independent adventures designed for low prep improvised play. Each adventure has a hook/rumors, course scenario, random encounters, NPC details, and black and white illustrations. 19 have hand-drawn maps. The settings are common locations such as cities, forests, mountains, underground, etc., for easy insertion into your sandbox campaign. They're also suitable for player character levels 1 through 7, generally run around 6 to 10 hours of session time. We'll point out, these were originally written for low fantasy gaming RPG. The adventures tend to be lower magic with a sword and sorcery bent. There are some references to the people and places of the Midlands of Argosa. That strikes a bell. Ringing a bell there, eh? But it's easily swapped out for your favorite setting. So this includes 22 adventures. It clocks in at 220 pages. So on average, 10 pages per adventure. It's going to be available in PDF as well as full-size black and white hardcover. So yes, we are talking 8.5 by 11. And the book is going to be print on demand via DriveThruRPG. Now, backers will receive a discounted PDF and a print at cost book code from DriveThruRPG. The cost to print the book is approximately $13 plus shipping. Now, this Kickstarter has already passed the 1,100% funding mark. You can reserve a copy of the, once again, 220-page PDF, plus that at-cost print coupon for a pledge of approximately $16 through March 25th. I say approximately simply because It's in Australia, so conversion rate changes constantly. Expected delivery on the PDF and that coupon is, ready for it, next month in April. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Very, very nice. And hey, speaking of Argosa, maybe you saw my review of Tales of Argosa from Pickpocket Press, and I was impressed. That is for sure. Check it out. If you have any interest in a sword and sorcery sort of role-playing game that's got an old school vibe to the proceedings, then by all means, check it out. Video's doing okay too. I was kind of surprised. Quite a few people interested in checking out Tales of Argosa. Kevin R. Smith is hanging with us. Said Kelsey Dion has just launched new official Shadow Dark Kickstarter. Man, you're late to the party, dude. We were talking about that before we even got into the news. I'll have a news piece on that tomorrow. I wanted to see how it did in its first day. See that, like I said, prior to us getting into the news, with Kickstarters, a lot of times I like to see what's going on for first day or two, because then when I share an article, I can use a headline that is a little more eye-catching. So, as an example, new Shadow Dark Kickstarter crushes $1 million in funding in 24 hours, whatever. Things along those lines, as opposed to new Shadow Dark Kickstarter launches. Oh, like a million other websites are reporting. Yes. So very nice. Very, very nice. I also understand that Roll for Combat has a new Kickstarter. I think it launched today, if I remember right. Well. 245 Trioxins pointing out that DriveThruRPG announced some major price raises for print on demand. Boo. Boo. You know what? Tomorrow we're gonna do a topic show. We are. I was thinking about this earlier today, and with that little tidbit of news, I think we are going to do that. So I will mention that a little bit later. Victor Gorchev is with us. Welcome aboard. Good to have you joining us. Says that Kelsey is one of the nicest people they've met working in this hobby. She deserves it. I have not met her in person. I have corresponded with her through email. And she was super, super nice. I was kind of surprised she didn't shoot me an email telling me about this Kickstarter, but it's okay. It's like, all right. Jack Hanks is with us, as is Matthew is hanging around, mentioning that tariffs are going to just absolutely screw over physical books. It's more than that. It is more than that, which is going to be taking place. And like I said, I think we're gonna be talking about that tomorrow. Let's move on to our next news piece, because there is an all-new Mythmere bundle of holding that is out by way of Free League Publishing and the aforementioned bundle of holding. So here are the deets on this deal. Adventura. This all-new Mythmere Core Bundle presents the English language PDF rulebooks featuring, all right, I'll say it the way most people do, Morkborg, the rules light, old school blackened art punk doomsday tabletop role-playing game from Sweden design teams Occult Mythmere Games and Stockholm Cartel, published by Free League Publishing. A doom metal album of a game, a spiked flail to the face. Ow. Morkborg is about miserable bastards and heretics enduring a bleak, dying world. Maybe you're a tomb robber with silver glittering between cracked fingernails, a mystic who would bend the world's heart away from its inevitable end. a sacrilegious songbird singing sweetly, though your soul screams. Play Morkborg as is or pick it apart for your own old school revival homebrew. There is no more metal way to mark the world's demise. This all-new offer gives you the English language core rulebook, 3 supplements, play aids, and the rulebooks for these standalone companion games, Cyborg and Pirate Borg, all for a price even a gutter-born scum can afford. Never, never insinuate people can afford what you are offering. Even as a joke, even as a gag in this, never, because people get upset. Oh, come on, everybody can afford $2. Well, no, everybody can't afford $2. So I'm kind of surprised they went with that, even though they're like, gutter-born scum. For just $9.95, you'll get all 4 titles in the Mork collection, or as I would say, Mirk collection, with a retail value of $45, which includes the complete Morkborg core rulebook, Cult, Feretory, and Cult Heretic, as well as the Game Master screen. If you pay more than the threshold price of $25.20, you'll level up and also get the entire Borg collection with 3 more titles worth an additional $50, including the Cyborg core rules, the Pirate Borg core book, and Free League's most recent Morkborg magic item supplement, Icon. These savings do run through March 24th. Gotta say, I like Cyborg and Pirate Borg more than I do Morkborg. If you follow the Gaming Gang, if you've watched my videos, you know I think Pirate Borg is fantastic. I liked Cyborg a ton. And there is also a second bundle of holding which is going on for third-party Cyborg supplements. I am not familiar with the company, and I am not obviously enough familiar with the supplements, but that is another bundle of holding which is currently going on. And I don't know, maybe it's just, I just don't dig for one, I'm not a huge grimdark sort of guy. So that's not exactly my bag of tricks. And it's really art punk in a lot of respects. So I mean, I think if I remember right, I think I gave it an 8 out of 10. I mean, I liked it enough to give it a good recommendation, but I don't know. Diesel Shot says, yep, part of why community copies and pay what you want, as well as free versions, are so valuable. Really like what Kevin Crawford does with his Without Number series. Because Cities Without Number, Worlds Without Number, Stars Without Number, which was what kicked off the proceedings. Those are all available, absolutely free. There is no art. Womp, womp. Okay, you're not going to get that little spark of imagination from it, but absolutely free. And there's a little less content in them as opposed to the paid editions. But yes, Kevin Crawford is very big at providing a lot of free content for his games. Alrighty then. Oh, something else I was going to mention as far as bundle of holding. Have you noticed? Very rarely now do we ever hear about any of these bundles being, for charity, where it's like, oh, 10% of your purchase minus gateway fees goes to XYZ. Never see that anymore. That is a huge indicator of how concerned these companies are. Pretty weird. They would still turn to like bundle of holding, but kind of weird. Moving right along. Now, landed in PDF from Mythmere Games is the Tome of World Building. And here's what I know. The Tome of World Building is written by any award-winning author Matt Finch, author of the critically acclaimed Tome of Adventure Design. Well, and let's not forget Swords and Wizardry, people. Come on! They didn't even mention it. Using the Tome of World Building, you can create fantasy worlds quickly and fill them out with a wealth of detail from the random generation tables in this book. This book contains advice, real-world facts, who uses facts anymore? Systems, and lots of random generation tables to help you create a fantasy world for tabletop adventuring. The World is a chapter which walks you through creating the pattern of continents in, yeah, you guessed it, the world, and generating a historical cataclysm responsible for the fall of any earlier civilizations, plus some very good reasons for having such a cataclysm in the world's past. Other continents. We don't advise trying to create the whole world until your players have started adventuring in their home continent and you get a feel for their goals and capabilities. Therefore, this chapter lets you create quick snapshots of the continents where the players most likely won't ever visit. What's out there may affect the home continent, and this gives you seeds for lots of weird, high-level adventures. There's the home continent. Generate the map of the, you guessed it, home continent, one cultural basin at a time. Cultural basins usually contain 3 to 5 countries, which will share a cultural template, with each country varying from it in one way or another. Major historical events for each culture, and much more. We've got countries, details, and unique features for the countries you generate. Terrain and borders. This is where we talk about wilderness of many types. All that isn't part of a country is part of the wild and untamed land that the characters might explore. There are illuminarchies, generating world-spanning or region-spanning conspiracies, societies, orders of knighthood, monastic orders, and cults that insinuate their way into politics and warfare, as well as legendary locations. Every world needs lots of odd places on the map for characters to look into. Strongholds, ruins, religious locations, libraries, and other types of legendary location can be generated with these tables. And more. The book also includes chapters on cities and settlements, deities and religion, personalities, mythic locations, even more metal than the legendary locations, and monstrous leaders, plus a section of useful real-world facts. This 354-page PDF is currently available over at DriveThruRPG. It is part of the GM's Day sale. So the normal price is $25 right now for, I think it's 6 more days it is running. You can score it for $19.99. And I do understand that the hardcover should be out in the 3rd quarter. Pretty cool. I like Matt Finch's stuff that I have seen. Granted, I haven't read a bunch, but I definitely dig Swords and Wizardry. That is for sure. I like Osric. He is a big mover and shaker behind Osric too. So very nice. Very nice. Kevin King is with us tonight, as is Chris Lundgren, also popping on in. Very cool. Chris is joined by his cockatiel buddy. And our final news piece, there is a new Tier 2/3 adventure, which has arrived for Warhammer 40,000 Wrath and Glory from Cubicle 7 Games. Here's what I know about the Shards of Ulkari. My lord, master of the Azure Rime and lord of the Six Eyes, I present your chosen pioneers to undertake the endeavor for which they are summoned. The Shards of Ulkari is a thrilling Tier 2/3 adventure for Warhammer 40,000 Wrath and Glory. It's an ideal starting point for Eldari-focused groups that find themselves in the service of Arid Byan, a Corsair Baron known as the Six Eyes, and master of the Azure Rhyme. In service to the Corsair, agents are tasked with retrieving a revered artifact, a shard of the Avatar of Cain from craft world Ulkari, discovered on the icy surface of the planet Troleus. However, there is more to this mission than just retrieving the artifact, as the agents must negotiate the cutthroat politics of the Corsair courts and the interference of rival warbands, Drakari hunters, Assyrian envoys, and even nefarious Imperial rogue traders. Shards of Ulkari can be used as an exciting insert for ongoing campaigns, a thrilling standalone adventure, or an action-packed tale for convention or casual play. Do want to point out the Wrath and Glory core rulebook is obviously required. This 20-page PDF is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $4.99. Very cool, very nice. Very, very nice. Always like to see new stuff for Wrath and Glory. Of course, we have Vow of Absolution, which we took a peek at last week. I also have the Eldari book, which we will probably take a look at before I do a review. So that should be on the horizon as well. Very nice. So that is it for the tabletop gaming news tonight. Of course, I was talking about DriveThruRPG. Don't forget the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit DriveThruRPG, Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, Wargame Vault, any of the One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. And of course, if you like this video, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource or the channel to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Ooh, that's as good as Mythmere. And so far this month, a couple of our friends of the channel have stopped on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and made not small donations. So tip of the cap, big tip of the cap to Joshua Edwards and the Madman. But thank you to all of you out there who utilize the banner ads and or stop by paypal.me, the Gaming Gang. It is vastly appreciated. Yes. Okay, so Stephen from Roll for Combat, who we haven't seen in a while. It's been probably more than a month since we've seen him stop in to hang out and chat. Had asked if I'm going to GaryCon. And I wanted to go to GaryCon. And the person who, when I went to Gamehole Con, the person who is, I guess, I don't know if they were basically saying they're in charge of GaryCon. I mean, I don't know, but they were a mover and shaker of GaryCon, came up to me. They recognized me and came up to me to talk to me about going to GaryCon. And I said, well, you know, that's a pretty pricey, pass. And the previous time I had reached out to see if they offered press passes, they said no, they did not. This is, I don't know, 3 years ago, maybe. And they said, oh, maybe we could put something together, discounted in that, but you wouldn't be able to game. So it's sort of like, screw it. We'll just buy passes, which we did. And then by the time we had an opportunity to like request getting into games, there was hardly anything left. And keep in mind, we were paying for passes. So anyway, so I had mentioned to this person that pretty pricey. And they said, well, we don't charge you for events and stuff like that. I said, yeah. I said, but by the time the regular badge holders, because they've got different levels. So you got VIPs and gold and whatever. I think normal is like silver level or something. I said, by the time we got an opportunity to like pick events, there was almost nothing left. And we were there the day that you could sign up for events at our badge level. So I said, it really doesn't matter if you're not charging for tickets for the events if you can't really get into too many events. And they were like, well, we'll get you a press pass and so on and so forth. So I actually booked a room for Elliot and I to go because Elliot really enjoyed his time going up to Lake Geneva. So I think a lot of times it's just Elliot gets out of the house. It's what it is. Doesn't really matter that we're going to a con. I mean, Comic-Con, Gen Con, it's different. I mean, Gary Con, there's 1,000 people, something like that. So anyway, so I was like, oh, okay. So I hadn't heard anything. And I shot this person an email about maybe a month and a half, 2 months after I talked to them at Gamehole Con. And they said, yeah, we'll get you a press pass, but you won't be able to game on it. I've told this story before. And it was sort of like, well, then, what's the point? I mean, they said, well, we could offer you like a discounted badge so you could game. And it's like, well, I mean, you realize we're going there promoting GaryCon. I mean, I have a GaryCon hat that I bust out, but used to bust it out a lot more often than I do now. But it was like, so what are you going to give us? Like $20 off? So it's still going to be like $100 for the pass or whatever. And then the hotels up in Lake Geneva are outrageously priced. And it's March. It's like, what? Like, seriously? It's like, come on. And, Lake Geneva is not like some big deal. I talked with Elliot when we were up there last time, because we went up to the Founders and Legends. My friends at Trollord Games arranged for us to get passes, which I'm sure I could have gone through them again, but I don't do something like that. But I had said to Elliot, when we were teenagers living in Chicago, going up to Lake Geneva was kind of a big deal. Okay, during the summertime and stuff like that. But that's when families did that kind of stuff. Families really don't do that kind of stuff anymore. So for them to be charging $700 for 4 nights at at a hotel that's like nothing to write home about, kind of crazy. Anyway, so I am not going to GaryCon after that long, drawn out story. But I do want to let you know why. Because, I'm transparent and I'm not trying to be a dick. Be like, well, we should be able to game for free. I mean, the thing is, it's not as if we were going to be able to get into, a jam-packed schedule of games anyway. Marco Antonio Salazar Matamoros, probably not even anywhere near that, is asking, would the price increase on DriveThruRPG affect only print on demand or the PDFs as well? I would not expect to see a price increase come from DriveThruRPG on PDFs. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that publishers won't be bumping their prices up. See, this is all something we're going to talk about tomorrow. Because yes, we're going to do a topic show, and we are going to talk about, I don't know, what should be the title? I'm trying to think what the title, I don't want it to be, clickbaity, but I also want it to be, sort of eye-catching. I guess something like, are gamers being priced out of the hobby? Because it's not only, role-playing games and books and stuff like that. You're looking at regular board games too. In fact, a lot of the regular board games are getting hit harder because the board games, for the most part, are produced in China, and everybody is ready for that. No, they're not. Diesel Shot says, fun fact, they realize as they listen and pack more books, they think they turducken my copy of Chain Stars in a hurry to get it in the post. I usually underwrap the bubble envelope, but overwrapped yours. Yes, you did. Mattia says, The World is Burning is a good title. There you go. Is the TTRPG world burning? Question mark. As Tessie Trekkie points out, PDF prices are set by the publisher. Print-on-demand price floors are set by DriveThruRPG's print partners. So there you have it. All right, so there is the answer of GaryCon and also the topic for tomorrow's show. And then on Thursday, I think we're going to do another episode of Let's Build a Fantasy Role-Playing Game. Because I have had people emailing asking, so is it done now? Am I going to do any more? It's like, no, we're spent February doing first looks on the live show. Didn't radically change our viewership at all. But we will be tackling monsters, creatures and monsters on that episode. Diesel Shot says, DriveThruRPG feels like it's had warnings about cost of print on demand basically since early pandemic till today on the publisher side of accounts. Robert Santon is with us. Says they backed a few Kickstarters recently. They about broke the bank. Lingman RX says, be nice if the role-playing game companies didn't have us repurchasing the game again and again at full price for the virtual tabletop PDFs. Yes, that is a point. I will say with Foundry, there are quite a few role-playing game systems that are free, that you do not actually have to pay for. I think more so than you would find with some of the other virtual tabletops. Jack Hank says maybe they'll start making board games in the USA. They would, but there aren't the manufacturing facilities for it. That's the problem. And the funny thing is, we talked a little bit about this before. It's been a while, but the profitability of that is not worthwhile for companies to build facilities here in the United States. So Chris Leonard's talking about Eric Tenkar from Tenkar's Tavern doing a video about DriveThruRPG. Roll for Combat, Steven says, even if they make board games in the U.S., the paper and inks come from China. Yep. It's, don't know what to tell you, folks. This was the choice that was made. Companies decided, corporations decided, American jobs didn't matter. All that mattered was saving dough, putting more money in the shareholders' pockets. at the expense of everybody else. Troy Cornelson is with us. I believe this is the first time visit for Troy. If they did in the States, prices would still go up. Yeah, that's something we're going to talk about tomorrow night too. The fact that once prices increase, like for tariffs and stuff, prices increase. If those tariffs are eliminated, those prices don't come down. They don't return to pre-tariff levels. Yeah, we're not going to get political on tomorrow's show, but we are going to talk about the fact that a lot of people, a lot of gamers out there feel like they're getting priced out of the hobby. And I'm also one of these people where I don't buy into the whole, oh, well, you know, I want something, so I must have it. I deserve it because I want it. It's like, no, you can't afford to buy something. You can't afford to buy something. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with the fact that you can't afford to buy something. So Tassie Trekkie says they're not going to comment on politics. No, like I said, I mean, we're not going to get into politics about it, but I mean, prices are going up. Prices are going up. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about ways to keep your gaming budget in line. Matteo says, economies or economics can be discussed without politics. Besides, politics affect you whether you like it or not. Yeah, that is true. That is true. All right. So, well, we're not getting into that topic tonight. It's a topic for tomorrow. So everybody put on your thinking or put your thinking caps on the side to be available for you tomorrow, because we're going to discuss this. And of course, it'll be an open discussion because it's not as if I, know a ton of stuff about it. I'm not an economist. I only play one on television. What can I tell you? Kevin King says, someplace I'm not going to even try to pronounce in Ohio used to have a paper mill. When they were in the town a few months ago, it did not stink. So I assume they lost their paper mill some time ago. Jack Hanks points out sites like Humble Bundle, you can play for super cheap. The thing is, people have to change their mindset. They have to change their mindset. They can't sit there, and I get it. Is it easier to sit here and read a book as opposed to reading it on, say, a tablet or computer screen? Yes, of course it is. But you can't sit there and be like, well, and people say it all the time. I'm the same way. I mean, I don't mind PDFs. I use PDFs all the time. But I hear people say, oh, well, I got to have the book. I need to have the book. And like I said, I get it. But the thing is, you can't sit there and on one hand say, oh, everything's so expensive. I can't afford to be part of this hobby. Have all these PDFs out there, very affordable. And also say, well, no, I gotta have the book. And unless there's some sort of physical or mental block which prevents you from using a tablet or a computer or whatever to read a PDF. Mateo says you can print out a PDF for way cheaper. I would think if you were playing an adventure, you can always just print out the pages you think you're going to tackle if you're running a published adventure. All right. So Chris Lundgren says, what about us that can't read the PDFs from iStrain from a tablet like themselves? Like I said, if you've got some sort of physical or mental issue, challenge that is preventing you from utilizing it, okay, I understand people saying, hey, I got to have the book. But there are a lot of folks out there who want to have the book Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Because we got a first look we're going to be getting into. That's right. We're going to be diving on in to take a first look at the second edition of Urban Shadows from Magpie Games in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
You know, I'm never gonna swing this. That little hand of hers is bound to sneak over here for some of my candy. It'd be more of a drag, though, if this was just one bar, but I'm enjoying it's 2 pieces. I know that hand's coming over any minute, and whatever happens, I still get a whole thing of chocolate, coconut, and almonds to myself. Enjoy it, baby.
Peter Paul Almond Joy. You can share half and still have a whole.
Hi there, time for Timer, your roving reporter. I'm talking to you from inside a fantastic factory, your digestive system. You know what we build here? You! Not out of wood or metal, but out of food. You see, you are what you eat, from your head down to your feet. Things like meat and eggs and fish you need to build up muscle tissue. Uh-oh. Hello, appetite control, more protein. We need energy. Playing tennis today, you know. Whoops. All these motors in your body need a lot of fuel to go on, like carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, vitamins, and so on. What's left over forms the building blocks you need, indeed, to grow on. Yes, you are what you swallow, so that next time you feel hollow, don't just fill your face with any old kind of treat. This goes for every kid or 6-foot athlete. All you really are is what you eat.
It's my new drinking fountain. Wilkins Instant Coffee here and water here.
I'll take water.
Next.
This killer's a fiend of the most diabolical kind.
13.
Maybe more. He's looking for only one thing. Blood.
Human victims for human blood. Experiment in horror to satisfy a desperate need never before known. A need that was not of this earth. From outer space he came to destroy the people of this planet, leaving in his path of doom a trail of terror.
He's going to kill me!
Stay there, I'm on my way.
I can't stay.
And now, on with the show.
Time for Timer. I know it's people in chat saying, I remember that. Yep, that's why I'm sharing it. Remember, I shared one or two of those before this. I know I shared one last week, and it was like, oh my God, because I just stumbled across it. And then, of course, I make sure if I share it, I'm not going to get flagged for any sort of copyright violation. But yes. And then, okay, here's an interesting little piece of trivia about that movie, Not of This Earth. So the actor, I think his name's Paul Finch, something like that. So he had to wear these contact lenses to get that like milky film over his eyes, and he hated it. He despised it, and they would make him wear them for hours at a time. So he finally gets into a shoving match with Roger Corman and storms off the set. So they actually had to finish shooting the film with stand-ins because he refused to come back and wear those damn contact lenses again. Mateo says they just watched that movie recently on YouTube. Very nice. Very nice. All right. And there is some more discussion about PDFs and stuff like that. We'll talk about that kind of stuff tomorrow because our main focus obviously will be on tabletop role-playing games. But seeing that I still cover board games from time to time. In fact, hey, you know, if I had somebody out there who I could rely upon that had like a camera and stuff like that, I would send them board games to review. But sadly, I have tried bringing on other people for, you know, over a decade. And most of them don't last. The vast majority of them do not last. Kevin R. Smith said they heard that those whole eye contacts have always been terrible. Patricia Tallman had the same problem on Babylon 5 when she had to wear them when she was in contact with her character, was in contact with the shadows. Very cool. Very nice. All righty. So without further ado, we are going to dive on in and take a look at the second edition of Urban Shadows from Magpie Games. This 322-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $49.99. Talking about pricing, right? To me, that is a fair price. For 322 pages, well, we've been talking about 240-page hardcovers, $70. So I think that's pretty fair. If you want to grab just the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $24.99. All right, all that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Urban Shadows 2E. You know, and I'm going to get the shrink wrap off. A couple of things to mention before we jump on in. First of all, the fine folks over at Magpie Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. In fact, this is the first time I've actually taken a peek at a release from Magpie Games for the channel. That's kind of cool. Pretty excited about that. But also want to mention, neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, it's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book. I do want to give you a good feel for what you're going to find inside. I do notice there's a little ding here, but as I always like to point out, most publishers will send out review copies of books that have got a little bit of damage, so that way they're not selling it to, you know, the consumer out there who's paying full price for a book. So I'm sure you probably noticed that. So I'm just mentioning that there. Let's take a look at the back. The city hungers. Will you feed it? The streets bleed shadows as the supernatural politics of the city threaten to swallow you whole. Will you suffer as the savior for those who don't have enough, or take advantage of the weakness in friend and foe alike? Will you fight the darkness or give in for power? Urban Shadows is an urban fantasy tabletop role-playing game in which mortals and monsters vie for control of a modern-day city, a political battleground layered just under the reality we know. Oh, I should say we think we know. Vampires, fairies, hunters, and wizards, oh my, fight to carve out a piece of the streets and skyscrapers, ready to make deals with all those who have something to offer. That's going to tell us what's inside the book, which we're going to find out by taking a peek. Something I find kind of interesting, recently we're seeing more and more of this where role-playing game books have little informational entries like board games do. So here it's showing for 3 to 6 players, 2 to 4 hours. It's got a mature rating. I find that kind of interesting. And a lot of it has to do with the session length that people play nowadays. Nothing like what we did when we were younger. Even today, if my role-playing game session is 6 hours or less, I feel that I'm cheating my players. All right, first thing we're going to do, we're going to take a peek at the credits page because there were a lot of folks who worked very hard to bring this to life. So let's give credit where credit is due. And then we have got our introduction, then Cities of Shadow, Fundamentals of Play. I do believe this is powered by the Apocalypse. Talk a little bit about that in a bit. Got our character creation, core moves. Yep, there we go. Core moves, playbooks. That's right out of the Apocalypse engine. Advancement, Master of Ceremonies. That must be our game master term. Long-term play, city guides. Yay! Chicago, Chicago. In Santiago, Chile. Sweet. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Kevin R. Smith says, weird they would put a time on the book given that players, GMs control session length. You know, but we've been seeing more of that. This is not the first time I've seen that on a book like, you know, a tabletop role-playing game book or in a box set for a tabletop role-playing game. Right, looks like we're going to have some fiction to kick off with. It's as if we're going to have quite a bit of artwork throughout. And it appears that the artwork has a purple cast to it. So it seems as if purple is going to be our color of choice throughout this. We're going to get how to use the book, City of Stories, playing to find out what you need to play. I will mention, oh, hey, there we go. Got a couple of bookmarks there. Some people find the Apocalypse engine be kind of tricky. I would say, and this is just my personal opinion, not being someone who's super familiar with PBTA, I do believe that to get the most out of an Apocalypse engine powered role-playing game, that you do need to be a relatively experienced game master, I think. Just like when I talk about like Mothership First Edition, which is not powered by the Apocalypse, it is a percentile system, but there's a lot of openness to the results of those dice rolls that I personally think you need to be a relatively experienced game master to get the most out of. Bradley Thorpe is with us in chat. Good to see him. Stephen Dukensky, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, is popping on in. I think this might be a first-time visit in chat for Stephen. Said, first E was a cool read, but they never got a chance to play. This looks like a beaut. Well, I'll tell you so far, the production quality, very, very solid. Artwork so far, pretty cool. And paper stock, nice and thick. There is a sheen to the pages. I know there are folks out there who are not fans of that, but it depends. I think a lot of times it really depends on how much light is in the room that you're reading the book. I mean, that's the reality of things. Agile Monk is popping on in. Good to see you, Agile Monk. So we've got our mortals. Members of mortals, we've got investigators, defenders, and traffickers. We got sample characters, a dark web blogger, a vigilante demon hunter, a retired wizard living an ordinary life, not forget those air quotes, and an excommunicated oracle, sample factions, Society of Magical Artifact Dealers, a Hunter's Club, a Gathering of Ghosts. Something else that we do see with role-playing games that are powered by the Apocalypse Engine is there is a lot of power in the hands of the players. And what I mean by that, funny enough, this says power. Power to the people, man. What I mean by that is they have a lot of power to shape the game world and the stories that take place in the game world far more than, say, your typical Pathfinder campaigns, things like that. So we've got wild. So these are fairies, demons, and constructs. Do we have werewolves in this? I'm curious. So members of power, wizards and oracles, immortals, loyalists. The knight, there we go, werewolves, cool. Vampires, werewolves, and ghosts. Oh, I wonder what kind of wine she's drinking there. Role-playing is a conversation. That means it's easy. You sit down at a table or start a video call online with dice and pencils and sheets of paper and talk to each other. You might take turns talking, interrupt each other at times, or even all go silent for a moment, but the conversation keeps moving. Each of you pushing it forward by adding your own contribution, your friend's words working alongside yours to knit together a fictional world. I like that. I like that quite a bit. So talking about fictional positioning, and I think what they mean by that is positioning in the game world, not like a combat tactical positioning. Core elements, circle status. So that is how much pull, how much clout, I guess, you would have. Debts. In the supernatural underworld of the city, there is no greater currency than debt. The obligations that bind the characters to each other amidst the chaos of the city. Everyone, from the most powerful wizards to the lowliest imps, collects and spends debts. Nice. So we have harm. So you'll track harm. We have faint, serious, and critical. So it looks like a grand total of 5 boxes there. Characters in Urban Shadows are no strangers to violence. The supernatural world is like any community that focuses on illegal or illicit activity. Violence is a substitute for all the other forms of communication that are excluded by the nature of the business. You can't, for example, sue another werewolf pack in municipal court for taking your territory, or call the cops to tell them an undead vampire lord murdered and ate your brother. You've got to handle all that shit on your own. Tell you what, I'm liking what I see so far. I really am. Get groups. So giving you an idea of the different groups that no doubt player characters are part of, as well as NPCs. Setting expectations, open secrets, conflicts of interest, power and consequences, your supernatural world, the city as a character. That would be a very important aspect of an urban horror role-playing game. So here we've got our character creation, and this is where we would use playbooks for the various different character styles or archetypes. So did I just somehow skip past? No, I think the playbooks are further on. Okay, so one of the things that tends to confuse people a little bit is moves. And it confuses players. It confuses game masters who are new to the Apocalypse engine. So I'm kind of curious here how detailed we're going to get into this. To do it, you do it. So that is the golden rule of moves. No move triggers without an action. Want to turn to violence? You've got to start swinging fists or shooting bullets with the goal of inflicting harm on another character. Want to figure someone out? You've got to watch them closely long enough to get your bearings. Want to hit the streets? You've got to get out of your apartment and track down whatever you're looking to get your hands on. To do it, you do it. And as we see here, turn to violence, figure someone out, hit the streets. Those are highlighted in purple because those would be considered moves. Once again, as I pointed out a little while ago, I am not necessarily very well versed in the Apocalypse engine, but I do understand some of the basics. So it's talking about how to use this chapter. So different moves: escape a situation, persuade an NPC, figure someone out, keep your cool. Keep your cool triggers when your character's focus and willpower are needed to accomplish an important goal or avoid serious danger. Note that the move only triggers when the pressure is on, so you won't have to keep your cool unless something else in the scene has already brought some strain to bear on your character. I like how each of these moves is getting a relatively detailed breakdown. But the thing is, it's not as if you're locked into, oh, these are the only things I can do. It's just giving you an idea. And some discussion about ending this session. More moves. Circle moves complement the basic moves, allowing your character to interact more broadly with the circles that vie for power within the city. Put a face to the name. Hit the streets. We've got debt moves. Refuse to honor a debt. What are these city moves here, maybe? Oh my gosh, that is what they're called, city moves. Chris Leonard points out Goodman Games is coming out with an all-new Mutant Crawl Classics expanded core rulebook. Book will glow in the dark. It's up on BackerKit. Once again, Chris completely derailing chat. Just joking. Chris is always trying to pull chat in the direction he wants it to move in. Kevin R. Smith points out, basically, you can narrate anything. You just only roll dice if something triggers a move. At least that's his understanding. Yeah, I think that's kind of how it works. And then, okay, if I remember correctly, it's got, you're rolling 2 6-sided dice. And you have, I think, 2 to 5 or something is pretty bad. 5 to, or I should say 6 and 7 is like a failure, but. So I think the lower range is like a failure and, so something on top of that. And then I want to say 8, I think it's 8 to 10 is a success, but. And then 11 or 12 is a success and. I think that's something else that kind of throws people a little bit with the Apocalypse engine. I got to say, I think the Apocalypse engine was a more popular system to build games around. I think it's kind of cooled off a little bit. Now, Apocalypse World has been out for 15 years, I think, somewhere in that vicinity. I think, funny enough, I would say the Apocalypse engine role-playing game that I took the closest look at was Dungeon World. But once again, it's kind of strange because I don't think there was ever a new edition of Apocalypse World came out. I don't think there was ever a new edition of Dungeon World that's come out. Kevin R. Smith says, yeah, for a while, it was like the D20 of indie RPGs. And everybody was making Powered by the Apocalypse games. Kevin King says they're more interested in the MCC book than another monster manual. Yeah, I would be curious about the new Mutant Crawl Classics book simply because one of my knocks when I reviewed it was I thought it left a lot out. That there were a lot of things that were present in the Dungeon Crawl Classics book that were sadly missing. It felt incomplete. And I remember being confronted by its designer at GaryCon after I was talking to him for a few minutes. And then he told me who he was. I was, oh, yeah. I said, I reviewed Mutant Crawl Classics. And he's like, yeah, I know. He walked away. All right, so here we got our playbooks. We've got the Hunter, the Imp, stubborn, resilient, scheming, free. The Imp is a demon who slipped the noose of fealty, seizing sovereignty that lasts only as long as they can keep it. Play the Imp if you want to forge your own future, scheming and plotting in the pursuit of a better life for you and yours. So this will give us a little bit of background here. Some starting character stats, as well as some questions to ask yourself when creating the character, such as how long have you been in the city, your establishment, your schemes, and your moves. So we've got business as usual. You get to choose a couple more. Measure your mark, friends in low places. I'm a fucking demon. The weasel words. And of course, everybody's got access to like basic moves too. I am intrigued. I don't know about you folks out there watching along, but I am intrigued by this. I would also say, from what I'm taking a look at here and just from what I know about Powered by the Apocalypse, is the game master's got to be creative and your players have to be creative to really get the most bang for your buck. Because there's so much that's up in the air. There's so much that's unwritten that you're going to create as you play. That's always been my understanding. So as far as like published adventures, I think the published adventures that you'll see are more along the lines of kind of skeletal, almost like flowcharts, I think, as opposed to, oh, everything's keyed, all these keyed locations and stuff. So it looks like we've got quite a few playbooks there. I think there were a dozen. And this is the Game Master section here. And yes, the Game Master or Master of Ceremonies have their own moves that they use. So as you can see here, Mortalis moves, Night moves, creating and using NPCs. You've got goons who are just disposable NPCs. Diesel Shot says they're really loving what Magpie Games did with the black and purple. Kevin R. Smith says, yep, PBTA is the poster child for the indie idea of giving players narrative authority. We've got our first session, some advice about that, teaching the game. That's cool. I like that. Long-term play. Time waits for no vamp. Often the action of an Urban Shadows session can take on a desperately urgent tone. The aware searches the city for their missing sibling, while the tainted struggles with their latest assignment from their dark patron, a murderous task that causes the oracle to be plagued by visions of an impending disaster. If you aren't careful, the immediacy of these conflicts can prove to be exhausting, leaving your players caught up without any way to reset or find some sense of normalcy. In most urban fantasy stories, however, time eventually passes. Leads grow cold, deals take time to negotiate, and time skips forward enough for the characters to take a breath and take care of ordinary business. Jumping forward in time also gives the larger institutions of the city, factions like a wizard's council or vampire clan, a chance to take broader political actions. In those breaks, they wage wars and gather resources at a larger scale that reframes the background conflicts of the entire city. The everyday concerns of the main characters evolve alongside these larger conflicts, the conversation between the two reflecting what it means to live in an urban metropolis. All right. So I think we should be getting close to the 2 cities. Yep, there we go. City guides. There's a ghost. Embrace a street level perspective. The player characters probably don't know the city's full story. That's okay. Focus on the elements the PCs are actively engaged with as the story opens. Which NPCs do they know? Which debts do they owe? Make the conflict feel real by focusing on the lives of the player characters instead of over-explaining the central conflicts. Tie PCs to important NPCs. Take only what you need. Finally, don't treat the city guide itself as a straitjacket. So here we go with the Chicago info. So if you are looking to do a bit of a Dresden Files urban fantasy, or I should say urban horror, I guess, I know. There's a Dresden Files role-playing game. I get it. I know that. I remember it's Evil Hat. Okay, so this is Santiago. And it looks like we're going to get into our appendix. So we've got our basic moves, playbook advancement based on what playbook the player chooses, faction moves, city moves, the Master of Ceremonies section here, City Hub or City Hall. So these looks like different areas of the city. Yep, Art District, City Hall, downtown, the university, and our index. And that's how we will wrap up our look inside the second edition of Urban Shadows from Magpie Games. So, of course, I will have a review of this in the not too distant future. Kevin R. Smith says the twist is that Game Master moves only trigger on low player rolls. Yes. Very nice. Very cool. Like I said, I am intrigued. Very much so. Alrighty then. So once again, this is Urban Shadows, second edition from Magpie Games. This book is out now. This had a very successful crowdfunding. I think it was Kickstarter, if I remember correctly. You can pick up the 322-page hardcover for an MSRP of $49.99. If you want to grab it in PDF, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $24.99. I will have the link to both Magpie Games as well as the PDF in the show notes. Very cool. All right, so that is going to be it for this time out. Kevin R. Smith says, I wonder if Urban Shadows keeps the usual Powered by the Apocalypse practice of only allowing one of any playbook in the party. Example, only one vampire. So no masquerade politics. I wonder. I don't know. We'll find out. We shall find out. Anyway, that is it for tonight's show. As I mentioned, tomorrow we are going to do a topic show. We're going to talk about the rising cost of tabletop gaming, what's behind it, and how you might need to adjust your expectations for the hobby, as well as ways to save money. And we talk about the bundles all the time. And I get it. Like we were talking about earlier, some people are like, yeah, but I can't do PDFs. I get it. I understand. We shall discuss. And then on Thursday's show, we will have another episode of Let's Build a Fantasy Role-Playing Game. We're going to delve on into monsters. So stay tuned for that too. Nice. All right. If you were watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company as I'm sharing the news or paging on through something. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you know, have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very kindly for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,100 videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Really means a lot to me. Much appreciated. All right. So if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. If you have a moment, please leave a comment so we can possibly appease those algorithm gods at YouTube. But of course, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of Tales of Argosa from Pickpocket Press. If you have not checked it out and you are into sword and sorcery, you have got to take a peek at the review. I think you might be impressed. I know I was. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. Come on, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very kindly for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And as I always say, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.